The evening of December 10th, 2020 seemed like a normal day in southwest Atlanta, Georgia. Old heads were on the block washing their cars. People were celebrating coming up on pandemic stimulus checks. All in all, things were looking up for the residents of the Oakland City area. Little did they know though, everyone's lives would change in a matter of minutes. As folks were posted on the block enjoying their evenings, they noticed a suspicious vehicle creeping up on the 900 block of People's Street. It was extremely suspicious because when you see an over $200,000 Maybach SUV pulling up to the trenches, unannounced, straight lurking, with windows tinted darker than Michael Blackson. At first, the people in the neighborhood thought nothing of it, but then, when the car stopped in the middle of the road, best believe everyone noticed when two shooters flung the doors open and already started shooting. This moment would forever change the rap world, because unbeknownst to everyone involved, apparently it was none other than the multi-platinum rapper YFN LUCCI driving the SUV. And when one of his shooters who was with him was critically hit and left to die, it was his name that came up as a suspect just 1 month later in January 2021. There's no exaggeration when I tell y'all that the situation in Atlanta right now is crazy.
At 6, we've learned a music megastar, YFN LUCCI, has surrendered on the gang racketeering case.
We begin tonight with a developing story. Atlanta police are on the scene of a triple shooting, and one of the victims is a teenager. The shooting happened outside a barber shop, and tonight one victim is clinging to life.
Literally insanity. Within the past 24 hours, this video of YFN LUCCI's shooting dropped on Wsbtv. But then, a short 5 hours later, the infamous DA, Bonnie Willis, who was the boogeyman to all these street gangs in Atlanta's metropolitan area, in a surprise move, released a statement advocating for YFN LUCCI's early release. And literally a mere 2 hours after that, Lil Baby's business partner from his seafood restaurant, the Seafood Menu, was gunned down in his Rolls-Royce Cullinan.
The restaurateur gunned down while in his car in a busy portion of the city. Tonight, Atlanta police are still searching for whoever is responsible.
While the connection between all three of these instances isn't completely known, some things just seem a little stranger than coincidence. But what we do know is it's summer, and in the city of Atlanta, it's going crazy right now. While it seems that YFN LUCCI's story might be reaching its final chapter with its release imminent, the real reason as to why they were even trying to end someone's life that day was far more complicated, with a web of gang ties with some of the world's biggest rappers in YFN LUCCI, Young Thug, and Lil Baby. So today, we gotta talk about the beef that caused YFN LUCCI and his shooters to spin on 4PF in 4K in broad daylight right now. But before we do, I need you to run this up for me, man. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that link in the description for merch, and if you're a real Stay Safe World member, man, watch this vid all the way through. Let's get into this. Chapter 1, Part 1. In order to even understand how things even got to this point, you gotta understand the gang culture within the city of Atlanta is fluid. When people think of gangs, they think of blue versus red and a black and white sense. However, the gangs of Atlanta are way more complicated than that, with Bloods beefing with Bloods, some Bloods clicking up with Crips, or even people who are close with each side just trying to stay out the way and not get involved in street stuff that doesn't concern them. In this case though, the story starts with one gang in particular, YFN, or Young Fly Ninjas, a group from the Summerhill area of Zone 3 with alleged ties to the Inglewood Family Bloods gang based out in Inglewood, California. The Family Bloods originated in Inglewood obviously, and is one of the oldest blood sets, and essentially set up shop as a franchise in Atlanta back in the late 80s to 90s. So many highways running through the city of Atlanta, the A is basically like a gateway to every part of the country, which can easily help sets that they're trying to get their money up in different locations and regions. YFN LUCCI, or Rashawn Bennett as he was known before, grew up in the Summerhill area and had close ties with members of IFGB. He was originally a football player with ambitions to make the league, but when that didn't work out for him, people around him like his brother and his brother's best friend Big Nut encouraged him to take rapping seriously. That's when they first formed YFN, not as a gang but as a label, music group, to build each other up and blow up. But while YFN LUCCI was starting to enter the rap game, there was another rapper from the area already starting to make waves in the Atlanta scene with his flamboyant dresses and hard songs. Jeffrey Williams, as we know him as Young Thug, also came up very close by to YFN's neighborhood, but in the Jonesboro projects in Zone 3. Coming up in pretty much straight poverty, Thug had no choice but to either rap or crash out or go to jail. During this come up, he became associated with a group called the Rock Boys, or ROC crew. ROC standing for Raised on Cleveland, also known as Raised on Bleveland, a large street that goes throughout the city. You know, baby Kia, I was on Bleveland right now. That's how it is, you know. The area is known for gang activity and violence, so it's honestly a miracle that Young Thug was able to escape and become a world-renowned artist if you really think about it. Young Thug and members of the ROC Boys were allegedly be associated with another blood set called SMM, Sex Money Murder, a set originating as a one-off on the East Coast. They would later go on to form YSL Venom, which they themselves stated was not meant to be a gang but an organization of like-minded creatives with the goal of lifting themselves out of the poverty through music and creativity. You know, truly humble under God type beat. While a lot of the members of YSL were alleged blood associates, it was really like a hybrid group because several members of the California gang, the Rolling 60s, had members in YSL or had close ties to YSL, which leads us to the next person in this, Lil Baby. Four Pockets Full, aka Bank First Play Later, or currently known as CBFW or Can't Be Fucked With, is a clique of Rolling 60s based out of the Oakland City area. Lil Baby being known from his group as the most successful rapper, one of the most successful rappers to even come out of the city in general. This group has always been known to stay out the way and try to focus on getting bread, but they aren't really pushovers obviously. Similar to the other rappers we mentioned, Lil Baby was always known for being a hustler. He documents long nights, winning thousands of dollars on dice games, and basically came up on the streets. As you see, many people around Lil Baby have lost their lives, so he wasn't really thinking about rapping like that, but was just trying to get money and trying to make it out. Being in and out of these settings, he gained a close relationship with several YSL members like Gunna, who he talks about taught him how to rap, and Young Thug. Lil Baby even credits Young Thug to basically forcing him to take rap seriously. Thug saw Baby's potential and the way his life was going and basically paid dude to stay out the streets and just focus on making music. Like, imagine, bro, one of the biggest rappers in the world is paying you to get out the streets. Is crazy. Ever since then, Baby and Thug have been tight, with Lil Baby being one of the most vocal rappers and supporting Young Thug in his case. That close relationship would end up playing an important role in the craziness that will later go down between these three groups, which we get into in chapter 2, the hit on Big Nut. By January 2015, all three of these groups were cool. YFN LUCCI spent the last couple of years dropping successful mixtapes and getting buzz throughout the city. At the same time, Big Nut linked him with his manager, who was also managing Rich Homie Quan at the time. Back in those days, Rich Homie Quan and Thugger were dropping bangers and everything was all good. You know, YFN and YSL kind of coexisted. However, one targeted shooting in the Castleberry Hill area of Southwest Atlanta would change everything for the worse in the city.
The shooting happened outside a barber shop, and tonight one victim is clinging to life. Channel 2's Jessica Jaglois is live at the scene, where there's still a very heavy police presence.
In January 11th, 2015, shots rang out at a Southwest Atlanta barbershop at McDaniel Street. When the dust cleared, police found that Big Nut, aka Donovan Thomas, was killed, while two other people, a 14-year-old and another man in his 20s, were shot but had non-life-threatening injuries. Rumors spread like wildfire, many believing that YSL had something to do with this. For several years after, it was up in the air who called the hit, but as Young Thug's trial progressed recently, further details about the night became available to the public. Police believe that Young Thug had some type of responsibility in the hit due to the fact that he allegedly rented the 2014 Q50 Infiniti sedan that police believed was used in the shooting. This evidence is also the main thing that prosecutors are trying to prove, invoking testimony from professional snitch YSL Woody, who we made a video on. However, it was not certain, since just because Thug rented the car out to his friends, it doesn't technically make him responsible for what people did in it, even if they did. At the same time, professional snitch YSL Woody, who led police to believe all these details from the shooting from over a decade of snitching to law enforcement, has changed his tune and basically pled on the fifth on all this, and also said that he lied to investigators to protect himself. Regardless, YFN LUCCI and others from YFN definitely felt some type of way, and a major split took place in the Atlanta rap scene. At the time, people had to either choose between YFN or YSL. It's probably at this point how 4PF took the side of YSL, while Rich Homie Quan made sure to distance himself and take the side of YFN, which brings us to the next chapter, YSL vs YFN. Shortly after the Big Nut murder, tragedy struck not one time, but two more times. It seemed that YFN LUCCI was being targeted because his house was shot up on two separate occasions, bro. Like, what did you do to them to make them this mad? One of which resulted in his mom getting shot in the leg while he's in the studio. Shortly after this, YFN LUCCI and YFN members would catch Rolling 60s member Lil Duke lacking at Magic City. Video footage shows them running up to him just getting away by the skin of his teeth when he's pressed. LUCCI would then take a step further by publicly beefing with Young Thug on social media, insinuating that he smashed his then fiance on Twitter. Bro, this was just a crazy ass time to be a rap fan. They got people crashing out on the internet like there's no tomorrow. Thug was basically playing it all cool online and basically seemed to shake it off on Twitter. but in real life he had a very different perspective. Things cooled down, allowing for both of these sides to reach their highest peak in their careers. But in 2019, tragedy almost struck again when YFN LUCCI had his G-Wagon shot up in Atlanta, almost injuring a friend who was driving it. Years would go on with both sides trading disses online, the craziest probably being Yak Gotti pulling up on YFN LUCCI's car while he was at Lenox Square Mall shopping, and bro just stood on top of it and posted it on Instagram, bro. It's crazy. It was not really certain what happened beyond the scenes that dragged 4PF deeper into this though, but many point to the obvious friction with all these groups beforehand, 4PF clicking up with YSL and a fellow Rolling 60s member Lil Duke getting ran up on and basically clowned, which brings us to 4PF versus YFN in the next chapter. While everyone was distracted by the YSL YFN beef, seemed that YFN LUCCI somehow became active with 4PF. On January 10th, 2020, YFN LUCCI and a group of 4PF members apparently got into some disagreement at a strip club in Atlanta. It's not sure if it was Magic City, but it seems in the way that it was described, it could have been. He more than likely had an issue with them for all the reasons that we talked about earlier. The next day, Miami rapper CP3, another shooter named James Adams, then decided to pull up over to Oakland City to look for his ops and commit the worst drive-by of all time. For some genius reason, they thought it was a good idea to pull up in their own car, you know, even dumber than registering a rental car in your name, and try to murk members of 4PF. Unfortunately, they returned fire, killing James Adams, who was then thrown out of the car and left at the scene. It's really crazy. The bystander 911 audio came out. You can hear a woman basically try to save his life and be with him for his last moments. It's really heart-wrenching that you can just leave someone who went to slide for you, but that sort of shows the mentality in this war. Nothing really positive goes on, no smart decision making, just crashing out because you have money and hoping you could get away with it with a fire lawyer Hail Mary. The aftermath has been pretty bad as well, with Young Thug getting locked up for a RICO investigation stemming from the murder of Big Nut. Lil Baby's restaurant co-owner just got smoked while sitting in his Rolls Royce Cullinan car outside his restaurant. It's not 100% if that has something to do with it, but the timing of everything is just so weird and crazy. But at the end of the day, man, this is a lesson to all these rappers that should stay out of the street stuff. Like, it's one thing to come out of that, but it's a race to the bottom when you make millions of dollars and come up and then go back, revert, and get more active than you were when you didn't have money, man. It's honestly insane. And there's so many other things that you could be doing with your bread, but obviously this isn't what they're thinking, because otherwise they wouldn't be facing life for 20 years, 10 years, or whatever. Since then, YFN LUCCI basically pled guilty, got a plea deal, ended up leaving, and is actually in like a halfway house or something like that, or in some type of transitional period. At the same time, Fannie Willis has basically come out, championed for him to actually get early release, which is honestly crazy if you think about it. Like, what are the odds, especially in how crazy she was trying to like stop them? And just on the same day that the video came out, it's like, bro, did you see the video of what happened? Because when you watch the video, you're like, damn, this is crazy. How was someone like this even out? But I guess he did spend a better part of almost a decade in jail, so hopefully he learned his lesson. Hopefully there's no more crazy stuff. But man, pray for the families that are involved. Hopefully they find out who did the dude that was in the seafood restaurant and stuff like that, and figure that out, man. But hey, let me know in the comments what y'all think, man. Real stay safe shit. You already know what's going on. Like, comment, subscribe, gang. Peace.